Good afternoon. My name is Sonny Lowen. I'm from Debating SA. So welcome to this august institution. I'd like to introduce you to our Chairman of our Board, Dr. Paul Hoadley, who's our company. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. It won't be very many words at all. My name is Paul Hoadley. I am the Chairman of the Board of Debating SA. And welcome to this fantastic venue, Parliament House, for the 2019 Grand Final Debates. So coming up next is the Year 10 Championship Trophy. And I won't delay things any further and hand over to the Chairman at this point.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2019 Year 10 Division Debating SA Grand Final Debate. My name is Chris Cho and I am the chairman of this debate, and the timekeeper is Romany Hill-Thompson. The topic of this debate is that big business should remain neutral on social issues. The affirmative team seated to my right is from Glenunga International High School, consisting of Lauren Plant, second speaker Hanson Wang, and third speaker Sean O. The negative team seated to my left is from Pembroke School, consisting of first speaker Thomas Tam, second speaker Dylan Warswick, and third speaker Jasper Du. This grand final debate will be judged by a panel of 5 adjudicators who are Ms. Claire Hale, Ms. Gabriella Hu, Ms. Jenny Burrows, Mr. Lucas Hazel, and Mr. Malwina Sorry. The speaking time of this debate is 6 minutes. A single warning bell will sound at 5 minutes, and a double bell will sound at 6 minutes. If required, a continuous bell will sound 30 seconds after the second bell, indicating that the second speaker must conclude their speech. I ask that all mobile phones or other electronic devices be switched off for the duration of the debate. I declare this debate open and call upon Lauren Plant to open the affirmative case.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for this debate is that big business should remain neutral on social issues. We define big business as large-scale, important financial or commercial activity, specifically large profit-making corporations with considerable influence on social or political policy. Neutral as impartial and unbiased, and social issues as problems that influence many people in society, including those that fall under the realm of politics and the environment. We will be applying our definition in a broad geographical context due to the rapid globalization of big business in the modern world. We, the affirmative team, strongly believe that it is imperative that big business remain neutral on social issues. Today's first speaker, I will be talking to you about how big businesses operate and how this impacts their motives. Why isn't big businesses' self-interest to involve themselves in social issues? And how do superficial positive intentions conceal hypocrisy? Our second speaker, Hanson, will be elaborating on these ideas by talking about the extent businesses will go to generate profit and the ramifications that big business can have as their impact extends beyond social responsibility. And finally, our third speaker, Ishan, will rebut and sum up our team case. Now to my first point, where I will explain to you how big businesses operate and why this impacts their motives for being involved in social issues. In their purest form, big businesses have a single mandate: to make money. They are obligated to return the most profit on the capital invested by stakeholders, or face consequences such as the shareholders lose incentive to invest, their stock price drops, they become ineligible for loans to grow the business. Profitability and growth are critical for businesses' long-term survival. The way a business operates is also governed by their corporate charter, which is a legal document that establishes the business as a corporation and details its structure, objectives, planned operations, stock information, role of the board, etc. The board of directors develop an annual operation and a 5-year plan. Shareholders expect the business to respect the legal nature of the charter and only involve themselves in what it prescribes. Social issues are not in their charter, so they must remain neutral. It is legally inappropriate to be involved in things outside the corporate charter. For these reasons, big business will never engage in anything that produces profit. So when they do not remain neutral on social issues in either direction, it is always in the interest of generating revenue. Now to my second point, where I will explain to you why it isn't in big businesses' self-interest to speak out or involve themselves in social issues. Starbucks, a place that most of us love to visit for the specialty range of coffees, have been targeted by a very influential Muslim organization in Indonesia because Starbucks is a strong supporter of gay marriage. This group of 13 million members have demanded that the government revoke Starbucks' license in Indonesia for not respecting its cultural values. Starbucks haven't remained neutral on diversity issues, and from a business perspective, some would say they haven't made a good economic decision as they lost customers and received complaints from shareholders. This leads to my third point, where I will demonstrate how big businesses' superficial positive intentions conceal underlying hypocrisy when they are complicit in activities they claim to be opposed to. Big business have a long and complex chain of operations, and many divorce themselves from their product's harsh outsourced production process. When big business champions social causes, they are exposing their unethical practices to scrutiny, and will pay the price and be held accountable for their complicity. Associating brands with worthy causes like child poverty, but subcontracting manufacturing to factories in India that employ children would love to be revealed by news media. Nike and Adidas have outsourced their manufacturing to overseas businesses for many years in pursuit of the cheapest cost to increase profits. Recently, most of this outsourcing has been shifted from China to Vietnam because Chinese wages have gone up. They follow the cheapest labor. They know that cheaper means exploitation and harsher workplace conditions, but distance themselves by outsourcing. In outsourced factories in China, millions of Apple products are made by hundreds of thousands of workers each year, where excessive overtime is routine, and conditions are so cruel they are pledged not to kill themselves. Global company H&M have created a foundation with key goals targeting social issues, including gender equality, stating they promote equal opportunities for people globally, and how this foundation drives a transformative program focusing on systematic change of the gender imbalance. However, H&M themselves are not a part of this change, after reports by the Global Labour Justice detailed hundreds of incidents of abuse both sexually and physically to female garment workers. When big business involve themselves in their chosen social issue, they become vulnerable to having their hypocrisies reported and their products boycotted. Their hypocrisy is clearly profit-driven. So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, the mandate of government is to legislate and enact social policy using tax revenue to resolve and improve social issues. The mandate for big business is to make big money, while operating in accordance with their charter. They do not function in a way that allows sincere involvement in social issues, but they should look inwards to improve their own practices before extending outwards with superficial signals of virtue. Thank you.
I call upon Thomas Town to open the negative case.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for today's debate is that big businesses should remain neutral on social issues. We as the negative team strongly disagree with this statement. We disagree with the definition given by the affirmative team and would like to amend it. We define big businesses as, according to the Australian Taxation Office, a business making greater than 250 million annual profit. We define should, in this context, as a social obligation to do something for the benefit of the business's stakeholders, the business itself, and to society. We define remain neutral on social issues as to abstain from commentary, publicising, or taking action on their position on social issues, which we define as issues relating to society that indirectly and directly affect people within a society. We believe that our definition is more suitable for this debate as it addresses a more suitable context, and their definition of big business was far too broad. I'll be speaking to you today about why neutrality won't work, how neutrality is a fallacy, and I will also explain how social issues are inherently linked with many businesses, and how as such, neutrality will not be beneficial to neither the business or society. Our second speaker will explain how taking a stance on social issues will not only benefit society and give a chance for real change, but also lead to economic benefits for the business. However, before I begin, I would like to point out some flaws in the opposing team's argument. They have tried to tell you that businesses are always interested in making profits and act in those interests. This is false because, whilst yes, businesses' goals are to make profits, they have a board of customers and businessmen alike, through which all decisions must go to. I will now elaborate on my main points. Neutrality is a fallacy, and actually being able to remain neutral on any matter is almost impossible. Words all have their connotations, whether positive or negative, and it is virtually impossible for any business to express or write anything without that opinion shown or being displayed. In a paper written by Jim Grossman for the AHA titled Neutrality Impossible, he writes that neutrality is a paradox, and that the very concept of being neutral, while sound in theory, is almost unachievable in practice. Some businesses are also inherently tied to a wide range of social issues, and as such cannot remain neutral on them. Mining companies, farming businesses, fisheries, and all food-related industries are intrinsically connected to social issues such as climate change, pollution, and environmental sustainability. For many businesses, their stance on social issues is what gives them individuality, something that sets them apart from other similar companies. Beyond Meat is a company that is almost entirely based around a social issue, environmental sustainability. Their views on environmental sustainability and the effects of meat production on the environment forms the basis of their company's values, and it creates a distinct identity for their product. They sell sustainable plant-based meat substitutes, and everything from their production process to the packaging is environmentally friendly. Thousands of people purchase Beyond Meat's products because they agree with the business's views and their opinions on the social issue of sustainability. It forms one of the core business values, and businesses like Beyond Meat cannot simply remain neutral on these social issues so integral to their existence. My second point is regarding how neutrality is dangerous to business. As I already spoke about in my first point, neutrality is paradoxical, and although sound in theory, cannot be truly implemented in practice. The risk in neutrality then is in how businesses attempt to express it. One way that businesses try to remain neutral on social issues is to retract all association with the side. Another is to simply remain silent on them. However, both these attempts can lead to serious repercussions to their public image and to their customer base. This statement is not without evidence or backing. One such example of this is the recent Delta Airlines case. After a horrible 2018 school shooting, Delta Airlines attempted to sever ties with either side of the gun control debates. They cancelled the NRA's contract for discounted fares for members travelling to the group's annual meeting in Dallas. Yet they then stated that Delta Airlines continues to support the Second Amendment in an attempt to please both sides of the issue. Following this, they then released another statement saying that Delta has taken this action to refrain from entering this debate and focus on its business. This was not well received by either side of the debate, which they had tried to remain neutral and uninvolved in. Customers took to social media with thousands of tweets and comments criticising their choices, with some users even saying that they would never fly Delta again. Uber faced a similar situation a year earlier, however they took a very different approach. In 2017, during a taxi service strike in New York, protesting President Trump's immigration ban, Uber attempted neutrality by remaining silent on the issue and kept their services open through the entire strike, with no acknowledgement of it. There was severe backlash over this, and Uber neutrality during the strike led to over 200,000 uninstalls of their app and forced them to even create a new automatic system to handle the overwhelming numbers of complaints. This is an example of why businesses simply cannot remain neutral on these social issues so entwined with their businesses. It is virtually impossible to truly remain neutral, and the ways that businesses try to, whether in silence or an attempt to pacify both sides, leads to serious repercussions for the business, their customer, and their stakeholders. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, Madam Chairman, as Desmond Tutu wrote, if you are neutral in situations of injustice, you've chosen the side of the oppressor. Big businesses should not remain neutral on social issues, as in many cases, remaining neutral is virtually impossible, as social issues are intrinsically connected to many businesses and trades. And in some cases, social issues form their corporate values, giving them individuality and defining their product. Not only this, but attempting to remain neutral on social issues can also be immensely detrimental to a business, as demonstrated by the Uber and Delta Airline cases. Thank you.
To continue the affirmative case, please welcome Hanson Wang.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that big business should remain neutral on social issues. We, the affirmative team, believe that this statement is unquestionably true. Before I begin, I would like to point out some of the flaws in the opposition's argument. The first speaker of the negative team has stated their own definition, and we believe that this is wrong. A market worth of $250 million is far too high, with it factoring out many otherwise relevant companies with a consequential stake in social issues. The first negative speaker discussed how big businesses can afford the loss of customers if they are doing what's right. How do they decide what is right or wrong, as many of these social issues are religious or moral? By committing to one side whether it is right or not only alienates the customers, but have to take from another. The first negative speaker also rebutted by stating that the opinions of customers is important for getting involved in social issues. They have limited their market moving forward, and in a study by YouGov that found in America, 59% of customers would boycott a company if they disagree with their values. How could companies possibly benefit from this? Our first speaker has spoken about how businesses are profit-driven and will never value people over profit, and how their non-neutral stances on social issues have negative impacts on staff, stocks, stakeholders, spokesmen, and other social issues. She has also talked about how businesses are hypocritical, masking their own exploitation with superficial positive intentions that do not make a dent in real social issues. Today, I'll be talking to you about 2 points. How the negative impacts caused by big businesses involved in social issues has dangerous ramifications for all parts of society, and how big businesses use publicity-based virtue signaling through charity donations for the pure motive of generating a superficial good impression at the expense of the people that they are representing. To my first point, talking about how big businesses contribute to charity for nothing more than PR. In many instances, neglecting the social issues that they supposedly advocate for. The general public is aware in this age of the social issues plaguing our society and have the intention of making a difference. With this comes the need for businesses to impress their potential customers. Bad public relations are bad for business, and therefore companies need to find a stance that will attract customers who want to support these social issues. Unfortunately, there is an abundant amount of hypocrisy in the corporate world, with companies claiming to be something they're not, in the interest of profit. A great example of this hypocrisy is Amazon, the online retailer. The company has launched charity initiatives such as Amazon Smile, which donates 0.5% of purchases to a charity of choice and describes themselves as ethical, forward-thinking, and inclusive. At the same time, Amazon is treating their workers horribly, with strict and abusive warehouse conditions to the point of 189 warehouse suicide attempts in the span of 5 years, as reported by Business Insider. On top of this, Amazon made $11.2 billion of profit in 2018, but paid zero federal tax. Despite Forbes naming Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos as the richest individual in the world, he has built his entire company around avoiding taxes. Big businesses are keen to show their support of social issues, but the ulterior motive is really just to gain the customer's approval, and in many instances, this is at the customer's expense. This brings me to my second point, discussing the negative impact caused by big businesses having any public opinion on social issues that affects all parts of society, including politics. Businesses greatly influence the public, and they have complete control over the media. Many people don't realize how much influence a single corporate entity can possess. A clear example of this is Rupert Murdoch's News Corporation, which owns 70% of the newspaper industry here in Australia, as expressed by former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd. Murdoch has frequently been subjected to claims of having his outlets produce news that serve his own political and financial agendas. It is unacceptable for companies who have so much jurisdiction on what the general population reads and consumes, and this matters on a local, national, and global scale. This is exemplified by the 2016 US presidential election, with Fox News, a conservative, for-profit news channel that was founded by Rupert Murdoch. Fox heavily contributed towards turning the tide of the presidential election, pumping out Trump-biased propaganda to the point where it was essentially a state TV network, or Trump's personal YouTube channel, as even Brett Baer, a chief political anchor at Fox News, has stated. As our first speaker has already mentioned, for-profit companies will always act in their best interests and don't care about the consequences as long as it doesn't affect their profit margins. Allowing businesses to advocate, fund, act, and support social issues rewards them with a profit goal line that will produce ramifications that are greater than the corporate world, like who ends up being a world leader. So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, bigger businesses should remain neutral on social issues. Not only do they give with one hand and take from the other, but they milk social awareness for the sake of generating profit. Terrifyingly, this can have greater ramifications that affect the entire socio-political structure of society as a whole. Kantian ethics states that a certain action can only be deemed to be good if the motivation behind it is based upon goodwill and not motivated by external rewards or pleasures. Big businesses operate over profit and therefore should remain neutral on social issues as a moral, legal, and political imperative. Thank you.
To continue the negative case, please welcome Dylan Wardwick.
Good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, timekeeper and chairman. The topic for today's debate is that big business should remain neutral on social issues, and we, the negative team, believe this statement to be false. The opposition has disagreed with our definition. Our definition is more reliable as it has sufficiently and specifically enough defined the scope of the topic with precise statistics. They have not substantiated their case with any number or numerical statistics. The opposition has also stated that big businesses' modus operandi interferes with their capacity to work on social issues. This is false as I will later elaborate, it is possible to achieve both positive social change and profit simultaneously. Furthermore, Michael Porter, an esteemed Harvard professor, states that there is no correlation between social issues and profit. They also stated that companies are hypocritical and expose underlying malpractice. This is also false, as she has said outsourcing products to the third world is bad. This is not relevant to whether some brands may outsource labour to third world countries. It's about whether countries should make public statements on social issues to bring about global change. They also stated that companies would do anything to make a profit, and their intentions are entirely superficial. This is also false, as whether the intentions of these businesses is sincere, any change in a positive way is good change. This aligns with a concept called consequentialist ethics, whereby positive effects are determined in validity by their consequences. The second speaker has also said that they use charities to get money and misuse this. This is also false, as this is considered misconduct and considered fraudulent. A majority of companies will not be misusing charities unless they are subject to serious ramifications. They have also stated that working conditions are bad once more. Once again, this is not relevant to whether companies should get involved in a broad sense, as we define the topic. Our first speakers explained to you how the very act of staying neutral is fundamentally flawed and unattainable standard to reach. He noted that this makes remaining neutral on a matter of impracticality, impossibility, by the very nature of the concept. He discussed the idea of how social issues are fundamentally ingrained in business and how it's impossible to contravene the right of business to engage in core social issues. He finally explored the detrimental effects of remaining neutral on businesses. Our first speakers highlighted the negative effects of neutrality. I will now analyse the positive effects of engaging in social issues for the consumer and business. Now my first point, the big business has the capacity to bring about genuine and legitimate change by not staying silent on vital social issues. On February the 5th, 2017, an influential company, Airbnb, launched the We Accept campaign with a $1 million pledge to assist those who've been displaced by conflict. They dedicated 100,000 homes for this purpose, demonstrating the capacity of big business to bring about significant change. Their promotional video and campaign was viewed 19 million times due to the prominence of Airbnb, resulting in 15.4 thousand direct volunteer sign-ups. Similarly, ice cream giant Ben & Jerry's Save This World, aimed at promoting clean energy, gathered more than 500,000 signatures to support transition to renewable energy. Self-evidently, big business has the capacity to draw upon significant resources and a customer base to facilitate positive social action. One prime example of big business inspiring big change is Unilever, which has directly benefited the health and well-being of over 1.24 billion people, or a seventh of our world's population, through measures such as the implementation of safe drinking water. This trend has been followed by more than 81% of America's top 500 businesses who all introduced positive social responsibility programs. This shows companies are increasingly working towards integrating social issues and being outspoken about them. This works towards a principle called shared value, developed by Harvard professor Michael Porter, whereby social issues are solved with a business model. This would enable a sector worth $20 trillion, 7 times more than government and 20 times more than NGOs, to take action on social issues. I have discussed the positive effects on society, but what about the effects for business? Well, that brings me to my second point. The economic viability is actually tied closely to involvement in social issues. A Nielsen study recently published found that 70% of respondents will be willing to pay more for a product that supports social campaigns. As such, enabling companies to engage in social issues will create more customers and subsequent profits, benefiting big business. This demonstrates that a strong majority of people choose socially sustainable products that will inevitably increase profitability. Socially sustainable companies also generate higher profits. Unilever, a parent company to over 1,000 brands, found that 75% of their growth came from just 28 of their most socially sustainable brands. This demonstrates how more sustainable brands have the capacity to generate significant profit and growth through the implementation of positive social policy. Another large component of revenue for business is investment. In this regard, social policy also benefits the company. KPMG data in fact indicates that investment will accept lower returns from a socially conscious business 57% of the time. Investment in socially involved companies is thus secured through both optimised returns and investor approval. By embracing social issues, companies will also increase transparency on core values and social policy, which, according to later insight, will result in brand loyalty in 94% of cases. Thus, businesses staying neutral is economic suicide. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, businesses absolutely should engage in contemporary social issues as a mechanism to better society, while simultaneously developing a position of economic advantage for the business. Thank you.
To conclude the affirmative case, I call upon Ishan Oak.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that big businesses should remain neutral on social issues. We, the Affirmative team, are adamant that this statement is true. As third speaker for the Affirmative, I will be reiterating the points made by our first and second speakers. However, I would like to begin by pointing out the flaws in the arguments posed by the negative. Now, the first speaker for the negative team said that many companies are directly linked to social issues, thus they cannot remain neutral. Their example was environmentally questionable industries like mining not being able to be neutral in issues like climate change. Whilst it may be impossible to prevent their actions from impacting this, it doesn't mean they must actively support it. In this case, neutrality can be abstinence from taking a certain stand, one that can be detrimental to them. Now, the first negative speaker discussed how pressure for leaders to take a stance will only continue to intensify. In an increasingly divided society, we must be able to rely on big businesses as impartial or neutral forces. Social issues can and should be handled by non-profit organisations, as there is too much at stake for them to be represented by big businesses who value profit over people. The first negative speaker finished with a quote regarding neutrality in situations of injustice. They said that remaining neutral is in the favour of the oppressor, and whilst this is relevant in clear-cut, unanimous issues, many social issues are far more controversial, revolving around religion and ethics in which there is no clear oppressor. Now, the first negative speaker has spoken about the penalty for inaction and that businesses may face backlash as people want corporations to be engaged. The issue with this argument is that when a business takes a stance, it speaks for not only the founders or major stakeholders, but for lower-level employees, affiliated organisations, and many more. Because of how many people are part of a company, they should not have the right to speak for the majority, especially when a certain view is only held by a prominent figure. This problem becomes particularly significant when it's on a topical, divisive issue, like many social issues are. This can result in negative effects both inside and outside of the corporation due to misrepresentations of employees and misconceptions about whether the view is held by only a few individuals within the company or by everyone inside of it. Big businesses should remain neutral as to not politically or socially represent their employees, as they don't have the right to speak, and employees deserve the right to their opinions, as argued by Morris Blackburn partner Josh Bornstein. Now, the second negative speaker has disagreed with our definition once more, referring to a specific limit on what is defined as a big business. We reiterate that the negative's definition excludes important examples of companies where their social stances produce ramifications that are critical to the cause. Now, the second negative speaker spoke about how big business have social platforms and funds to make significant positive change. I'd like to explain how there are two types of social stances that can be taken. Ones that are seen by society as unanimously positively influential. For example, funding organisations that feed the hungry or provide clothes for the homeless. The other kind revolve around more political stances. Such socio-political stances generally revolve around topical or controversial issues. These generally divide society. For example, Coca-Cola and Airbnb's Super Bowl advertisements that actively condemned the new anti-immigration laws that the US implemented, which were already a subject of controversy. As our first speaker discussed, when organisations target unanimously positive issues, they generally do so for positive PR, rather than for genuine care. This is exemplified by them donating only minuscule fractions of their fortunes to such causes and using them to improve their reputation. An example is Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon and richest person in the world, with a net worth of $137 billion. He was under fire for not using his wealth for good causes for years, according to Business Insider, and only ranked inside of the top 50 highest charitable donations last year when he gave $2 billion to the Bezos State Fund, which he named after himself, a clear display of ulterior motive for donation. On the other hand, the divisive nature of the other type of political stance, the controversial kind, can actually impact business, as both our first and second speakers have discussed. They also discussed the public good that businesses have already done. However, as our first and second speakers have already emphasised, their intentions are not genuine or helpful. Our first speaker, Lauren, began by discussing that the primary purpose of big businesses is financial gain, explaining how they're profit-driven, not people-driven, and that social and political issues are outside the scope of their abilities. She provided examples of companies' involvement in social issues that can be detrimental to supply chains, staff, consumers, and stakeholders, and she showed how big businesses can essentially contradict their values through their controversial moral and ethical practices. Our second speaker, Hanson, elaborated further, discussing how big businesses can contribute to charity for the sole purpose of improving their reputation. He revealed how companies like Amazon claim to be ethical, but their true actions show a different story. He also discussed how big businesses having a stance on social issues can produce consequences beyond the corporate world, impacting the socio-political structure of society. So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, our team believes that big businesses should certainly remain neutral on social issues. In the words of political journalist Henry Wallace, danger is represented by those who, paying lip service to democracy, in their insatiable greed for money and the power which money gives, do not hesitate to surreptitiously evade the laws designed to safeguard the public from monopolistic extortion. Let us not be complacent with these obvious extortions. Thank you.
To conclude the negative case in this afternoon's debate, I call upon Jasmine Du.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for today's debate is that big business should remain neutral on social issues, and we, as the negative team, undoubtedly disagree with this statement. I would first like to rearticulate why our definition is more applicable for this debate. They have defined it to include businesses that are lower than the ATO's estimate of 250 million, and saying that this excludes a lot of relevant companies that support their side of the topic. This is incorrect because the OECD's is actually higher, sitting at 500 million, and many businesses are above this many big businesses make well above this 250 million profit estimate, and it's a very specific and reasonable definition for this debate. Now, I would like to point out some flaws in the opposition's arguments before I summarise my team's case. The first affirmative speaker has tried to convince you that the way that big businesses operate prevent them from acting on social issues. This is incorrect because, as we have stated, big businesses are membered by and run by extensive boards, and the company's stance will not just be determined by the decision of a sole CEO or a small board. As this topic is concerned with big business, they have extensive networks of boards, teams, and executives to discuss the issue. According to an article in The Conversation in 2019, board sizes range from 3 to more than 30, and these don't include the various other officials that manage other aspects of the business. They have also stated that it is legally inappropriate to engage in social issues. This is incorrect because it is not legally inappropriate. As according to the Supreme Court, they gave the right of free speech to corporates and unions on January 21st, 2010, and businesses are additionally protected by the First Amendment in America, which includes the right to free speech, which extends to expressing opinions on social issues such as is the topic of the debate. This is relevant because we are dealing with big businesses, and it's not just exclusively Australian ones. She has also attempted to convey that it is not in big business's self-interest to speak out on social issues. This is invalid because they've used one example to illustrate why big businesses should not weigh in on social issues, when in reality, big businesses engaging with the community on social issues has a plethora of benefits, as our second speaker has outlined. And additionally, to corroborate this, a study done by Forbes indicates that it is in the interest of business to engage in social issues. In terms of consumer relations, 92% of consumers have a more positive image of companies that support social issues and environmental efforts. Additionally, every action within a business has the chance to generate economic gain or loss, and they cannot, and not taking a stance on an important social issue that is determined to be relevant to the company or relevant to the consumers, as most social issues are, as they affect everybody, is at the detriment to the company. The second affirmative speaker has tried to say that big businesses have used superficial donations to serve an underlying motive. This is wrong because they are big businesses, and the bottom line is, in order to survive in the entrepreneurial world, they need to make money. So of course, weighing in on social issues is pushing their own agenda or fueled by underlying motives. But doesn't everything that a business do is exactly that? So it is flawed to argue that they shouldn't take a stance on social issues as it is pushing their own private agenda or for their own motives. It is another decision made by the business to help establish what they stand for. He has also articulated the negative impact of big businesses taking sides on political issues. This is false because we are not talking about political issues. We have defined the topic, both sides, as social issues, and big businesses addressing them. He has centered his point around big businesses engaging with a political issue and explaining the ramifications of that, which is not the topic of this debate, and irrelevant. He has also tried to say that big businesses should remain neutral and unbiased in today's society. The third speaker has tried to say that big businesses should remain neutral and unbiased in today's society. This is incorrect because in today's increasingly personalised society with consumers and business, it demands businesses' opinions on social issues, corroborated by studies I have mentioned before, and another one by Drexel University revealing that consumers find it hypocritical for a company that claims to be guided by core values, which all of these big businesses are, to then withhold their position on a social issue. He has also tried to tell you that the big business cannot speak for a majority of its employees, and it limits their employees' freedom of speech. This is incorrect because, in the modern day world, it is impossible to please everyone, as everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and not everyone's views will necessarily align on things such as social issues. However, this does not mean big businesses should abstain from engaging with the community and taking a stance on social issues just because some individuals that work for them may hold different views. Ultimately, a big company will make their decision based on the core values that underpin and represent their business, and how they want their business to be seen by the society and in the community, by engaging and speaking up about relevant social issues. It also does not undermine employee freedom of speech, as employees are still allowed to express their personal views privately in their own lives. Our first speaker has articulated why neutrality is a fundamentally flawed concept and is impossible to consistently put in practice in today's society. He has also explained, in his second point, the danger of businesses staying silent and fence-sitting when it comes to establishing a stance on social issues. Our second speaker has then established the overwhelming potential for big businesses to promote and cause significant change, and how it is also beneficial for the business economically. In conclusion, we unquestionably believe that big businesses should not have to remain neutral on social issues. As American writer and political rights activist Eldridge Cleaver famously stated, there is no more neutrality in the world. You either have to be part of the solution or you're going to be part of the problem. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations to both teams this afternoon for firstly making it to the grand finals, but also presenting such an entertaining debate. It was definitely a grand final debate, and well done to both teams. Now, as mentioned previously, there are 5 adjudicators on this debate, and we arrived at independent decisions. Therefore, there will be no individual feedback from the speakers today. Today's decision was split 4-1. And I'm proud to announce that the winner of the grand final for 2019 is the negative team from Pembroke School. Congratulations, and I now hand back to the chairman.
I call upon a member of the runner-up team from Glenunga International High School to give a vote of thanks.
As the runner-up team, we'd like to thank everyone who could be here today for your support and encouragement of our debating, and also to the negative team for a great debate. It was a really good argument, and we congratulate you on your win, and also to our coach, the parents, and everyone, the adjudicators for coming up with the final decision. Of course, your input is greatly appreciated, and yeah, thanks.
I call upon a member of the winning team from Pembroke School to second that vote of thanks.
First of all, thank you everyone for coming out to Parliament House to watch this debate. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you to the chairman and the timekeeper for doing your respective roles and making this debate possible. Thank you to the Debating SA for organising and supporting this great competition. Thank you to the adjudicators for spending your time to give us, to come and watch us debate and arrive at a decision. And your time is greatly appreciated. Thank you to our coaches for helping us throughout the season, and most of all, thank you to the other team for an amazing debate. I can't articulate how great this. Sorry. Thank you very much for an amazing debate, and thank you very much.